By the first week of June, the city was already warm before 7 in the morning, but Clara Hayes woke with cold worry in her chest. Her 6-year-old daughter Lily was curled beside her, cheeks still warm from fever, one little hand holding the sleeve of Clara's nightgown, as if even in sleep she was afraid her mother might leave. Clara touched Lily's forehead and waited. The fever had gone down a little. Not enough for Clara's heart to rest, but enough for the world to expect her to go to work. That was the cruel part of being poor. Sickness did not stop the rent. Fever did not stop the electricity bill. A child's cough did not make a dangerous man's office more forgiving. Clara slipped out of bed carefully and went to the small kitchen. On the table, unpaid bills sat under Lily's school papers. Clara had hidden them there the night before, as if a child's drawings could cover what life kept demanding from her. She made Lily breakfast first. 1 slice of toast, half a banana, and the last of the milk. For herself, she poured coffee and told her empty stomach to wait. It had learned to wait years ago. Lily appeared in the doorway holding her stuffed rabbit by one ear. "Mommy?" Clara turned with the smile she used when she could not afford to cry. "Good morning, sweetheart. How do you feel?" Lily rubbed one eye. "Still hot." Clara knelt and pressed her hand to Lily's forehead. "A little hot. Not too much." Lily looked at the table. "Are you going to work?" Clara's smile softened. "Yes." "Because your boss will be angry?" Clara paused. Lily did not know Dante Moretti's name. Not really. To Lily, he was only Mommy's boss. The man who made her mother leave early, come home late, and sometimes answer phone calls in a voice that sounded too careful. "No," Clara said gently. "Because Mommy needs the job." Lily nodded, too young to understand everything, old enough to understand too much. Clara helped her eat, brushed her hair, and packed a little bag with medicine, a water bottle, and the stuffed rabbit. Mrs. Alvarez from downstairs had agreed to watch Lily until Clara returned. It was not ideal, but nothing in Clara's life had been ideal for a long time. While Lily sat at the table, Clara dressed in a cream blouse and black skirt. Her hands moved quickly, pinning her hair, buttoning her sleeves, checking her bag. They still moved like a nurse's hands, careful, trained, quiet under pressure. Once she had been Nurse Clara Hayes. Once she had walked hospital halls with purpose in her chest and white shoes on aching feet. She had loved nursing, not because it was easy, but because it meant something. She knew how to read pain before a patient admitted it. She knew when an elderly woman smiled just to avoid being a burden. She knew that sometimes the difference between life and death was a nurse who checked one more time. Then one night at St. Agnes Hospital, Clara had refused to let a poor elderly woman be discharged when the woman could barely stand. The doctor wanted the bed cleared. The woman had no useful insurance. Clara checked her vitals and knew sending her home could kill her. So Clara stayed. She delayed the discharge. She corrected a medicine timing error. She called the doctor again and again until he returned. The old woman lived. But that same night, a rich VIP patient suffered because a senior doctor made a dangerous mistake. The hospital needed someone small enough to blame. They chose Clara. Records changed. Witnesses went quiet. Her nursing license was suspended. Her husband left not long after, calling her a disgrace while baby Lily slept in the next room. Since then, Clara had not been a nurse on paper. But she had never stopped noticing when something was wrong. 3 years ago, Moretti Enterprises hired her because Dante Moretti needed a secretary who would not break under pressure. Clara needed rent more than she feared him. Dante was not a normal boss. He was the kind of man people lowered their voices around. He owned towers, restaurants, warehouses, lawyers, guards, and secrets. Men with guns called him boss. Businessmen smiled at him with fear in their eyes. Clara had learned quickly that Dante's silence was more dangerous than another man's shouting. But she had also learned something else. Dante was not careless. He noticed everything. He hated weakness in himself more than in others. And every year, on the anniversary of his mother Isabella's death, he touched nothing on his desk except one framed photograph. Clara never asked about it. Grief deserved privacy, even when it belonged to a man feared by half the city. That morning, Clara left Lily with Mrs. Alvarez, kissed her twice, and hurried toward the bus stop. She was late. Clara Hayes was never late. Her phone showed 2 missed calls from the executive floor by the time she reached Moretti Tower. When she pushed through the glass doors, her blouse was damp at the collar, Her hair was coming loose, and her heart was beating too fast. The front desk guard stood immediately. "Miss Hayes, Mr. Moretti's office has been asking for you." Clara swallowed. "My daughter had a fever. I had to leave her with Mrs. Alvarez." The guard's expression softened for 1 second. Then his earpiece crackled and his face changed. "Marcus wants you upstairs." Clara's stomach tightened. Marcus did not call people upstairs because of a late arrival. He called when something had gone wrong. The elevator ride felt longer than usual. When the doors opened on the executive floor, the hallway was too quiet. The assistants were not whispering by the copier. The legal office door was closed. 2 guards stood outside Dante Moretti's private office. Marcus turned as soon as he saw her. Tall, severe, dressed in black, he looked at Clara as if weighing whether she was an employee or a problem. "Where have you been?" he asked. "My daughter was sick." "Mr. Moretti is waiting." Clara looked past him at the closed office door. For a moment, an old hospital fear rose inside her. The fear of walking into a room where powerful people had already decided what story they wanted to believe. But Marcus only opened the door and stepped aside. Dante Moretti stood near the window with his back to the room. His black shirt was open at the collar, sleeves rolled once at the wrist, gold watch catching the morning light. Valeria sat on the leather sofa, elegant in pale blue, her legs crossed, her hands folded like she was posing for a portrait. She looked at Clara and smiled with her mouth, not her eyes. "You are late," Dante said without turning. "I'm sorry, sir. My daughter had a fever." Dante turned then. His eyes moved over Clara's face, her loose hair, her tired posture. He did not soften, but he did not dismiss her either. "Is she safe?" Clara blinked. She had expected anger. "Yes, with my neighbor." "Then work." It was not kindness. "Not exactly. But it was not cruelty." Clara nodded and went to her desk. Valeria's smile thinned. "You are generous with excuses, Dante." Dante looked at her. "I asked if the child was safe. That is not generosity." Valeria laughed softly, as if the answer amused her. Clara lowered her eyes and began sorting the files already waiting for her. The wedding was less than 2 weeks away, and every department in Moretti Tower seemed to be moving around Valeria's future. Legal trust papers, charity transfers, guest lists, security schedules, family archive documents. Clara had been assigned to help organize the older records, especially the files linked to Isabella Moretti's foundation. Dante wanted everything finished before the marriage. Valeria wanted it finished even more. By afternoon, Clara was sent down to the restricted archive level with a list from legal. The archive was cold and quiet, lined with locked cabinets and old leather boxes. Clara handled everything carefully. She had no desire to disturb private family pain. She only needed to match charity trust dates, confirm signatures, and return files to their proper place. Then she found Isabella Moretti's medical folder tucked inside a charity box where it did not belong. Clara frowned. The folder was thin, older than the others, with a hospital label across the top. She meant to set it aside for Marcus, but when the folder opened, her eyes caught the medication chart. Her nurse's mind woke before her secretary's caution could stop it. The timing was wrong, not obviously wrong to an ordinary person, but wrong enough for someone who had spent years reading charts at 3 a.m. Isabella's symptoms did not match the clean explanation written in the final report. A medication had been marked at an hour that made no sense beside the next dosage. Another note had been inserted on paper that looked slightly newer. Dr. Vincent Hallow's name appeared twice, once in a margin note, and once on a signed summary. Clara felt the small hairs on her arms rise. She had seen a changed medical record before. She had been destroyed by one. She turned the page slowly. Behind the report, hidden beneath an old charity receipt, was a small envelope. The handwriting on it was fragile but graceful. "For my son, if I cannot give this to him myself." Clara's heart began to pound. She should have closed the folder. She should have called Marcus. She should have taken the whole thing upstairs untouched. But the envelope looked like the last voice of a woman who had not been heard. Clara opened it. The letter inside was short. "My Dante, if I do not wake, do not let them tell you grief is making you foolish. A woman knows when another woman stands at her door with love in her mouth and hunger in her hands. Do not marry the woman who needs you blind. Look at the medicine. Look at the hour. Trust what I could not say loudly. Your mother." Clara read it twice. Her mouth went dry. The woman who needs you blind. The wedding. The trust papers. Valeria. Clara heard footsteps outside the archive room and quickly folded the letter. Valeria appeared in the doorway, her pale dress bright against the dark shelves. Working late in the family records? Clara forced her face calm. Legal needed the charity dates. Valeria's gaze moved to the folder. Isabella's files are very personal to Dante. I know. Valeria stepped closer. Then be careful, Clara. Some doors should not be opened by women who are only hired to answer phones. Clara held the folder tighter. I understand. Valeria smiled. Do you? The words were soft, but Clara heard the threat beneath them. When Valeria left, Clara stood frozen for several seconds. She knew then that the letter could not stay in the archive. If Valeria had seen even a corner of that envelope, it would disappear by morning. Clara copied the medication chart, Dr. Hallow's note, and the pharmacy timing sheet. She slipped Isabella's letter into her bag, telling herself it was not theft. It was preservation. She would study the report at home, organize the proof, and bring it to Dante in a way he could not ignore. Accusing a man's fiancé of being linked to his mother's death was not something Clara could do with shaking hands and half a page. She needed proof. She left the tower just after 5, keeping her bag close against her side. Valeria watched from the upper lounge, phone in hand. The moment Clara disappeared into the elevator, Valeria called Dr. Vincent Hallow. Her voice stayed calm. The secretary found the old file. There was silence on the other end. Are you sure? She took something. Then get it back before Moretti sees it. Valeria looked toward Dante's office door. No, you get it back. And make sure she looks guilty when this is over. Clara picked Lily up from Mrs. Alvarez and tried to act normal. Lily's fever had lowered, but the child was clingy and tired. Did your boss get mad? Lily asked as Clara unlocked their apartment. Not today. Good. Lily leaned against her. Can we have soup? Clara smiled. We can have soup. Their apartment was small but clean. Lily's drawings covered one wall. A fan moved warm air around the room. Clara made soup, helped Lily change into pajamas, and waited until her daughter was sleepy before she took out the papers. She spread them across the kitchen table and began comparing every line. Medication conflict. Wrong timing. Altered note. Inserted page. Symptom mismatch. The more Clara read, the more certain she became. Isabella Moretti had not simply died from a natural complication. Her care had been pushed in the wrong direction. Then the report had been polished until the truth looked like tragedy. Clara pressed both hands over her mouth. Oh, Mrs. Moretti, she whispered. You tried to warn him. Her phone buzzed. An unknown number. Return what you took. Clara stood so quickly the chair scraped the floor. Another message appeared. You have a child, Nurse Hayes. Clara's blood went cold. No one in Moretti Tower called her nurse. No one except someone who had searched her past. She moved to the window and looked down. A dark car sat across the street. She could not see the driver. Behind her, Lily stirred on the sofa. Mommy? Clara turned quickly. It's okay, baby. But Lily sat up, hugging her stuffed rabbit. You look scared. Clara forced herself to breathe. I need you to listen very carefully. Lily's eyes widened. Clara gathered Isabella's letter, the copied chart, and her notes. She placed them inside Lily's favorite storybook, between the pages where a little princess hid a key under a rosebush. Then she pushed the book into Lily's small backpack. If my phone rings and it says Mr. Moretti, you answer it. Lily frowned. Your boss? Yes, my boss. Clara cupped her daughter's face gently. If Mommy cannot speak, tell him only this. Mommy can't get up. Lily's lips trembled. Why? Because he may not believe me yet, but he will listen to you. Mommy, are bad people coming? Clara wanted to lie. Instead, she kissed Lily's forehead. I am going to keep you safe. Go to the bedroom. Hide behind the bed. Do not come out unless I call you. A knock sounded at the door. Gentle, almost polite. Clara froze. A woman's voice came from outside. Miss Hayes? Mr. Moretti sent us. We need the family file you took by mistake. Clara's hand tightened around the phone. Mr. Moretti would send Marcus. There was a pause. Then the woman said, still sweetly, Do not make this harder than it has to be. You have a child inside. Lily began to cry silently. Clara pointed toward the bedroom. Lily ran, clutching her rabbit and backpack. Clara stood between the bedroom and the front door. The lock cracked under force. The door slammed inward, hitting the wall. A man entered first, broad-shouldered, wearing gloves and a bored expression. Behind him came a woman in a neat clinic coat, pretty, calm, and carrying a leather bag. The kind of woman a child might trust before learning that danger could smile. "Where is it?" the man asked. Clara lifted her chin. "Get out," the woman sighed. "Miss Hayes, no one wants to hurt you. Give us the letter, give us the copies, and tomorrow you can tell Mr. Moretti you made a mistake." "I did not make a mistake." The woman's eyes hardened. That is what failed nurses always say. The words hit Clara harder than a slap. "Dr. Hallow sent you." The woman smiled a little. "Smart, not smart enough." The man started searching the table, drawers, and kitchen cabinets. The woman stepped toward Clara and held out a hand. "Your phone." Clara moved back. "No." "Then we will write the message without your permission." She lunged for the phone. Clara twisted away and tried to reach the bedroom, not for the files, but for Lily. The man caught her arm and shoved her back. Clara struck the table hard, pain bursting through her side, then her shoulder hit the floor. For a moment, everything blurred. She heard Lily make a small broken sound from behind the bedroom door. Clara tried to rise. Her body refused. The woman crouched beside her and searched her coat pocket. "Where is the letter?" Clara breathed through the pain. "Gone." The woman leaned closer. "Listen to me. Mr. Moretti already thinks you stole from him. By morning, he will have a message from your phone saying you ran. No one looks long for a disgraced nurse and her little girl." She took Clara's phone and typed. Clara saw part of the message through blurred eyes. "I'm sorry. I took the file. Don't look for me." The man searched Lily's small shelf, but not the backpack behind the bed. The woman stood. "If you remember where you hid it, pray you remember before he finds you." Then they left. The damaged door hung crooked. The apartment fell silent except for Clara's breathing. Lily crawled out from the bedroom, her face wet. "Mommy?" Clara forced her eyes open. "Baby, don't open the door." "Mommy, get up," Clara tried. Pain flashed white. "I can't." Lily knelt beside her, sobbing. Clara wanted to hold her. She wanted to wipe her tears and say mothers always say, "It's okay," even when nothing is okay. But her strength was leaving her in slow pieces. Across the city, Dante Moretti stood in his office with Clara's message on his phone. Valeria stood beside him, quiet and pale. Marcus held a tablet showing edited security footage from the archive. The footage showed Clara entering the restricted room and leaving with a folder. It did not show why. It did not show the letter. It did not show Valeria watching. Dante read the message again. "I'm sorry. I took the file. Don't look for me." Something hard moved through his chest. "She admits it," Valeria whispered. "Dante, I am sorry." Dante did not answer. His eyes moved to his mother's photograph on the desk. Isabella smiled from behind the glass frame, gentle and gone. "She touched my mother's file," he said quietly. Valeria lowered her eyes. "I warned you. Quiet women hear everything." Dante picked up the phone. He would call Clara once. He would hear her voice. Then he would end her job and decide what came after. The call rang 3 times, 4, 5, then the line clicked. Dante spoke first, his voice cold enough to freeze the room. "Clara." A small sniffle answered. "Hello?" Dante went still. "Who is this?" "Lily." The name hit him strangely. Clara's daughter. He had seen the child only once in a drawing on Clara's desk. A crayon girl with pigtails and a rabbit. Dante's voice changed without his permission. "Lily, where is your mother?" Lily looked at Clara on the floor, at the broken door, at the chair lying sideways. Her little voice broke. "Mommy can't get up." Dante did not move. For 1 second, the whole office disappeared. Then he spoke lower. "What do you mean she can't get up?" "She's on the floor." Dante stood so quickly his chair hit the wall behind him. "Is she talking to you?" "No." "Is she breathing?" Lily leaned close to Clara and watched her chest move weakly. "I think so." Valeria stepped forward. "Dante, what is happening?" Dante lifted one hand, silencing her without looking away from the call. "Lily, listen to me. Do not hang up. Stay with me. Lily cried harder. Okay, did your mommy fall? No. Dante's eyes became deadly still. Then what happened? Lily whispered. They hurt my mommy. The room went silent. Marcus's expression changed. Valeria's face lost color before she could hide it. Dante saw it. He filed it away. Lily, he said gently, though his face had become terrifyingly calm. Is anyone inside the apartment with you now? No. Is the door closed? It's broken. Do not touch it. Do not open it for anyone. I am coming. Mommy said, give you the book. Dante stopped at the office door. What book? Lily wiped her tears with the back of her hand. The storybook. She said it belongs to your mommy. Dante's hand tightened around the phone. His mother had been dead for years. No child in Clara's apartment should know anything about his mother. Dante turned slowly and looked at Valeria. She forced a confused expression. Dante, Clara could have told her anything. You know how desperate people behave when they are caught. Dante's voice dropped. If you speak again before I return, choose every word carefully. Then he walked out with Marcus behind him. During the drive, Dante kept Lily on the phone. His driver broke every traffic rule the city had. Dante did not care. Tell me your name again, he said. Lily Hayes. How old are you, Lily? 6. You are very brave for 6. Mommy says brave means scared but still doing it. Dante closed his eyes for half a second. That sounded like Clara. Of course it did. Your mommy is right. Are you going to be mad at her? The question struck him harder than it should have. He had called to fire Clara. He had believed she stole from him. He had almost let Valeria turn his grief into a knife and place Clara under it. No, Dante said. His throat tightened. Not anymore. When they reached Clara's building, Mrs. Alvarez opened her door at the noise in the hallway and covered her mouth when she saw Dante Moretti. The child, she whispered. I heard crying. Dante reached Clara's door and saw the broken lock. Something inside him went colder than rage. He pushed the door open carefully. Lily? A small girl stood by the kitchen table holding the phone in both hands. Her cheeks were wet. Her stuffed rabbit was tucked under one arm. Behind her, Clara lay on the floor, pale, one arm curved protectively toward the bedroom as if even unconscious she was still trying to shield her child. Dante crossed the room and knelt beside her. He pressed 2 fingers to her neck. A pulse. Weak, but there. Clara, he said. Her eyelids moved, but she did not wake. Dante looked around the apartment. Unpaid bills under a chipped mug. Old nursing textbooks on a shelf beside children's books. Lily's drawings on the wall. A pot of soup still on the stove. Nothing about the room looked like greed. Nothing looked like a thief's home. It looked like survival. Quiet, tired, dignified survival. Shame moved through him before anger returned to cover it. Lily came closer with her backpack. Mommy? Said only you. She pulled out the worn storybook and handed it to him. Dante opened it. Between the pages, he found copies of Isabella's medical chart, Clara's handwritten notes, and the envelope. His mother's handwriting stopped his breath. He opened the letter and read, My Dante, if I do not wake, do not let them tell you grief is making you foolish. A woman knows when another woman stands at her door with love in her mouth and hunger in her hands. Do not marry the woman who needs you blind. Look at the medicine. Look at the hour. Trust what I could not say loudly. Your mother. Dante stared at the letter until the words blurred. For years, he had believed his mother's death was a wound life had given him. Now he understood someone might have placed that wound carefully in his home and called it natural. Clara stirred. Dante leaned close. Clara. Her eyes opened halfway. The first thing she did was look for Lily. Lily. She is safe. Dante said. Clara's fingers weakly gripped his sleeve. Her voice came out broken. Don't marry Valeria. Dante looked at Clara's bruised face, then at Lily, then at his mother's letter in his hand. He remembered the call he had meant to make. He remembered the sentence he had almost spoken. You are finished. He had been ready to destroy the one woman trying to save the truth his mother had died protecting. Dante stood slowly, Isabella's letter folded in his hand. Marcus, he said. Find Dr. Vincent Hallow. Find the woman in the clinic coat. Find the man who touched her. Marcus nodded. And Valeria? Dante looked down at Clara, then at the little girl who had broken his anger with 4 words. His voice became calm in the most dangerous way. Do nothing yet. Marcus frowned. Boss? Dante's eyes turned colder than the room. A snake is easiest to catch when it still believes you are blind. Dante Moretti did not take Clara Hayes to the nearest hospital. The thought came to him for 1 second as he carried her out of the broken apartment, her head resting against his shoulder, her body too still for a woman who had spent 3 years standing quietly between him and chaos. Then he remembered Dr. Vincent Hallow's name on his mother's medical report. He remembered Isabella's letter. Look at the medicine. Look at the hour. Hospitals had white walls, clean forms, polite lies, and men who knew how to turn a living truth into a dead record. Dante would not put Clara back into the same kind of place that had once destroyed her. Where are we taking her? Marcus asked as they reached the car. Lily stood beside him with her stuffed rabbit pressed to her chest, her eyes swollen from crying, her small backpack hanging from one shoulder. Dante looked down at Clara's pale face. My mother's house. Marcus looked surprised, but he did not argue. No one argued with Dante when his voice sounded like that. Dante settled Clara carefully in the back seat, then looked at Lily. Come here, little one. Lily hesitated. She was afraid of him. Of course she was. He was a stranger in a black suit who had arrived after bad people broke her door and hurt her mother. But he was also the voice on the phone that had not hung up. The voice that had told her she was brave. She climbed in beside Clara and took her mother's limp hand between both of hers. Is Mommy going to die? Dante had heard men beg for their lives with less fear than he heard in that child's voice. He closed the door gently and got in on the other side. No, he said. Your mother is going to live. Lily looked at him with wet eyes. You promise? Dante Moretti had made many promises in his life. Most had been threats. This one felt heavier. I promise. The car moved fast through the June evening, passing bright shop windows. Tired. Workers at bus stops, couples leaving restaurants, people living ordinary lives without knowing a child in the back of a black car was holding her mother's hand and whispering, Please wake up, Mommy. Dante kept his eyes on Clara's breathing. Each weak rise of her chest felt like a judgment against him. He had called to fire her. He had believed the evidence placed in front of him because it had touched his oldest wound. He had allowed Valeria's soft voice to step between him and the woman who had tried to protect his mother's final warning. The thought made him sick in a way anger could not cover. Isabella's old house stood behind iron gates in a quiet part of the city, surrounded by trees that had grown taller in the years since Dante last lived there. It was not like Moretti Tower. No black marble, no glass walls, no armed men in every reflection. It was a warm old house with cream walls, arched windows, and a garden Isabella had once filled with white roses. Dante had kept the house maintained, but he rarely entered it. Grief had made him rich enough to preserve everything, and cowardly enough to look at nothing. When the car stopped, Lily looked through the window. Is this where your mommy lived? Dante looked at the house. Yes. The grandma from the letter? His throat tightened. Yes. Dr. Elena Voss arrived 20 minutes later. She was an older physician, with silver in her dark hair, and the tired eyes of a woman who had spent her life telling powerful families things they did not want to hear. Dante trusted her because Isabella had trusted her years ago for small matters, and because Elena Voss had once told Dante to his face that money did not make him less mortal. She examined Clara in Isabella's old bedroom while Dante waited outside with Lily. The child sat on a hallway bench, feet not touching the floor, rabbit in her lap. She kept looking at the closed door. "The bad lady said Mommy was a failed nurse," Lily whispered suddenly. Dante turned his head slowly. "Who said that?" "The lady who came with the man." Lily rubbed the rabbit's ear between her fingers. "She wore a white coat, but she was not nice." Dante remembered Marta Vale from Hallow's clinic records. A woman in a clinic coat. A clean face hiding dirty hands. "Your mother was a nurse," Dante said carefully. Lily nodded. "Mommy says she still knows how to help people." Dante looked at the bedroom door. "She does." When Dr. Voss finally came out, Dante stood. "She has bruised ribs, a strained shoulder, and a head injury. She needs rest, no stress, no interrogation tonight." Dante's eyes hardened. "Will she recover?" "Yes, if men stop using her as a battlefield." Dr. Voss looked at Lily, then back at Dante. "And the child needs sleep, food, and no more fear if anyone in this house is capable of providing that." Marcus looked away. Dante accepted the rebuke without a word. He had deserved worse. Lily refused to sleep anywhere, except in a chair near Clara's bed. Dante did not force her away. He had a small bed brought into the room and watched as Lily curled up with the rabbit, one hand still reaching toward Clara's blanket. Near midnight, Dante stood at the foot of the bed with Isabella's letter in his hand. Clara was unconscious, but her face was no longer twisted with pain. In sleep, the sharp discipline she wore at work fell away. She looked younger, more tired, more human than he had allowed himself to see. On the dresser beside the window was Isabella's old photograph. Dante looked from his mother's face to Clara's. Two women from different worlds, one born into the Moretti name, one blamed and discarded by a hospital that should have protected the sick. Yet both had been silenced by people who wanted power, more than truth. "I did not hear you, Mama," Dante whispered. The room gave no answer. By morning, Clara woke to sunlight through pale curtains and the soft weight of Lily sleeping beside her. Pain reached her before memory did. Her ribs ached when she breathed. Her shoulder burned, her head throbbed. Then she saw Dante sitting in a chair near the window, still in yesterday's black shirt, sleeves rolled, eyes awake as if he had not slept. Clara tried to sit up. "Lily." Dante stood immediately. "She is here, safe." Clara looked down and saw Lily curled against her side, breathing softly, her eyes closed in relief. Thank God. Then she looked around the room and realized she was not in a hospital, not in her apartment, not anywhere familiar. Fear returned. "Where are we?" "My mother's house." Clara stared at him. That answer seemed to carry more trust than she knew what to do with. "Why?" "Because I do not trust hospitals tonight." Clara understood what he meant. Her gaze fell to the papers on the table near him. Isabella's letter, the copied charts, her notes. Then shame came, old and automatic. "I am sorry." Dante's face changed. "For what?" "For taking the file. For not telling you sooner. For missing work." He looked at her as if the words had struck him. "You were beaten in your own home, and you are apologizing for being late?" Clara lowered her eyes. "I needed the job." Dante said nothing for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was lower. "I called to take it from you." She looked at him then. He did not hide from the truth. "I know." "No," he said. "You don't. I was ready to believe you had betrayed me. I was ready to let my anger decide who you were. If your daughter had not answered that phone." His voice stopped. Clara's eyes softened, But she did not comfort him. She was too honest for that. You would have believed the evidence. Yes. Because it looked real. Because I wanted someone to blame. That was the harder truth. Clara looked toward the window. Powerful people often do. Dante accepted that too. The old version of him might have become angry. This version had spent the night listening to Lily breathe and reading his mother's last warning until pride felt useless. Tell me what you saw in the report, he said. Clara shifted carefully. I was a nurse before I came to work for you. Your file said your license was suspended. My file said what the hospital wanted it to say. Lily stirred but did not wake. Clara touched her daughter's hair, then continued quietly. There was an old woman at St. Agnes, Mrs. Bell. Poor, alone, too sick to leave. The hospital wanted her bed cleared. I refused to discharge her. I caught a medicine timing problem and kept her alive through the night. But upstairs, a senior doctor made a mistake with a rich patient. The hospital needed a nurse to blame. Someone without power. Someone who could be erased. She swallowed. They chose me. Records changed. Witnesses went quiet. My husband left when the shame became inconvenient. Dante's jaw tightened. What was his name? Clara looked at him sharply. No. Dante held her gaze. No. No revenge for my pride. No punishment because you feel guilty. Daniel left. That is between him and his conscience. Dante studied her. Even bruised, exhausted, and frightened, she still drew lines. You still defend people who did not defend you. I defend the part of myself that refuses to become like them. Dante looked away first. Clara reached for Isabella's chart with trembling fingers. Your mother's report has the same pattern. Not the same people. The same kind of lie. The body says one thing, the paperwork says another. A medication given too close to another. A symptom cleaned up in the final summary. A doctor's note. Written like it was added after everyone stopped asking questions. Whoever changed it did not expect a nurse to read it years later. And Hallow? His note is too neat. Too careful. Doctors who are innocent explain. Doctors who are hiding something polish. Dante almost smiled at the sharpness of that, but the grief in him was too deep. And Valeria? Clara hesitated. Your mother's letter points toward her. The trust papers explain why. Tell me. After marriage, Valeria would not control everything immediately. But she would gain access. Influence. Legal standing. If you were injured, absent, or emotionally unstable, she could move through doors your enemies could never open. Isabella saw that. Maybe before anyone else. Dante closed his eyes. He remembered his mother's voice, soft but troubled. Some women love the man. Some love the door he opens. He had laughed. He had kissed her forehead. He had called her overprotective. That memory hurt worse than any accusation. Clara saw it and looked away, giving him the privacy he had never asked for but desperately needed. Later that day, Dante began to move. Not with the loud anger his enemies expected, but with patience. He called Valeria himself while standing in Isabella's study. Clara sat nearby, pale but awake, because she had insisted on hearing. Lily was asleep in the next room under Marcus's guard. Dante put the call on speaker. Clara is alive, he said. Valeria's pause was small, but Clara heard it. A nurse hears pauses. Thank God, Valeria said. What happened? Someone broke into her apartment. How terrible. Did she see them? She is confused. The doctor says her memory may be unreliable. Clara looked at Dante. He did not look at her. His eyes were on Isabella's portrait. Valeria exhaled softly. Dante, I know this is painful, but be careful. A desperate employee may say anything to keep your sympathy. Dante's voice remained tired. The file is damaged. Damaged? This time the fear was clearer. Some pages are missing. The letter is incomplete. Valeria was silent, for half a breath too long. Perhaps that is mercy. You have suffered enough over your mother. Clara looked down at her hands. Dante ended the call and looked at Marcus. She thinks we have less than we do. Marcus nodded. Hallow has been trying to reach Marta Vale. Enzo's car was near Clara's building. We found traffic footage. Bring Marta first, Dante said. Not Hallow? Hallow knows how to lie. Assistants know where lies are kept. Marta Vale was found that evening at a small clinic storage office, trying to remove old boxes of medical records that had no reason to be moved after sunset. Marcus did not hurt her. He did not need to. He placed 2 photographs on the table in front of her. Clara on the floor of her apartment and Lily crying beside the broken door. Marta looked at the second photograph for too long. I didn't touch the child, she whispered. But you let her watch. Marta's face crumpled a little. People like her always believed guilt could be measured in inches. She had not touched Lily, so she wanted that to make her less responsible. Dr. Hallow said it was only a file, she said. He said Miss Hayes had stolen from Mr. Moretti and we were retrieving property. Then why write a fake message? From her phone? Marta's hands began to shake. Marcus placed a recorder on the table. Start again. By the time Dr. Vincent Hallow was brought to Isabella's house the next night, Dante had Marta's statement, Enzo's car records, the copied charts, Clara's notes, and Isabella's letter. Still, Hallow arrived with the confidence of a respected physician used to wealthy families fearing scandal more than truth. He wore a gray suit and carried a leather medical bag as if props could make him honorable. Dante received him in the old library. Not the basement, not a dark room, not a place Hallow could later describe as a threat. Clara sat in a chair near the fireplace with a blanket around her shoulders. Dante had not wanted her there. Clara had refused to hide. Miss Hayes should be resting, Hallow said smoothly when he saw her. Clara looked at him. I rested, for years while people like you wrote lies in clean handwriting. Hallow's mouth tightened. Dante placed Isabella's chart on the table. Explain the medicine timing. Hallow sighed. Mr. Moretti, grief often makes families search for patterns. Your mother's condition was complex. Clara leaned forward. Pain crossed her face, but her voice stayed steady. Then explain. Why the nursing note says she was alert at 8:10, but your summary says she was already declining before the second dose. Hallow looked at her, then at the chart. Old records can be inconsistent. Old lies, too, Clara said. Dante placed Marta's recorded statement on the table. Hallow's face changed. Only for a second. Enough. Your assistant says you sent her to recover a letter you claimed belonged to Valeria. Hallow removed his glasses and cleaned them slowly. Marta is unstable. Enzo? Dante asked. Also unstable? Hallow said nothing. Dante leaned forward, calm as winter. Do you know what Valeria will do when this reaches the trust board? She will say you acted alone. She will say you became obsessed with my mother's case. She will cry in public. She cries beautifully. Men like you always believe women like her will protect you because she once smiled while asking you to sin. Hallow's hands stilled. Clara watched his throat move. Dante had found the fear, not death, abandonment. Tell the truth, Clara said quietly. For once, let a chart breathe. Hallow looked at her then, and perhaps because she was not threatening him, perhaps because she wore the face of the kind of nurse he had spent his career dismissing, something in him weakened. Isabella Moretti was asking questions. He said. Dante did not move. About Valeria? About the trust language, spousal access, medical proxy clauses, emergency signatures. She believed Valeria was pressuring you to sign documents before the wedding. Dante's voice dropped. So Valeria came to you. She asked me to help calm your mother. That was her phrase. Calm her. Make her sleep. Make her less agitated. She said Isabella was becoming paranoid. Clara closed her eyes. Dante's hand tightened on the arm of his chair. You changed her medication. I adjusted the schedule. You changed her medication, Dante repeated. Hallow looked down. The combination weakened her. I did not intend. Do not finish that sentence, Dante said softly. Do not insult my mother by pretending you cared how it ended. Hallow swallowed. After she reacted badly, Valeria told me to clean the notes. She said no one would question a natural complication. She said grief would make you easy to guide. The room went silent. Dante stood and walked to the window. Outside, the garden Isabella had loved moved gently in the June night. For years, he had believed the world had taken his mother. Now he knew someone had studied his grief like a lock and used Valeria as the key. Clara watched him carefully. She expected rage. Instead, Dante looked terribly still. Record everything, he said to Marcus, and call the legal board. Hallow looked up sharply. You said... I said tell the truth. I did not say it would save you. The confrontation with Valeria came 2 days later, and Dante chose the place carefully. Moretti Tower, executive conference room, where the final pre-wedding trust documents had been scheduled for review. Valeria arrived dressed in white, diamonds. At her ears, her face arranged into concern. She expected a wounded fiancé, confused by betrayal, ready to be comforted. She found Dante at the head of the table, with Marcus standing behind him and Clara seated to his right. Clara was still pale. One side of her face held a faint bruise no makeup could hide. But she was upright. Her hands were folded on the table. Valeria's eyes went to her first. You brought the secretary? I brought the nurse, Dante said. Valeria's smile sharpened. The failed one? Clara felt the old shame rise like a hand around her throat. For years, that word had followed her in whispers. Failed nurse, suspended nurse, negligent nurse, woman who lost everything and still dared to stand. Dante began to speak, but Clara lifted one hand slightly, not to silence him as Valeria once had, to tell him she would answer for herself. They took my uniform, Clara said. Not my eyes, Valeria laughed softly. Eyes do not make a woman credible. No, Clara said. Truth does. Dante placed Isabella's letter on the table. Valeria stared at it. For the first time, her perfect expression broke. That letter is private. Dante's voice was cold. It was written to me. By a sick woman who misunderstood what she saw. Dante pressed a button. Hallow's confession filled the room. Valeria stood very still as his voice described the medication change, the cleaned report, the trust documents, the fear Isabella had begun to ask questions. When the recording ended, Valeria did not cry. Dante had expected tears. Clara had expected denial. Instead, Valeria looked at Clara with hatred so pure it seemed almost honest. You should have stayed poor and quiet. Clara's fingers trembled, but she did not lower her gaze. I was poor. I was never quiet. You think he loves you now because you played wounded mother in front of him? Valeria leaned forward. Men like Dante do not love women like you. They pity you. They rescue you when guilt makes them soft. Then they return to women who belong beside them. Clara went pale because the words found a place that already hurt. She had wondered the same thing in the dark hours of Isabella's house. Was Dante protecting her because he respected her, or because guilt needed somewhere to kneel? Dante's chair moved back, but Clara spoke before he could. Maybe, she said softly. Maybe he does not love me. Maybe he never will. But I did not stand here to be chosen by a man. I stood here because your kind of woman has spent too long thinking poor mothers are easy to erase. Valeria's mouth tightened. Clara's voice grew steadier. You used medicine to silence Isabella. You used money to silence Dr. Hallow. You used shame to silence me. But you made one mistake. And what was that? You frightened my child. The room went quiet. Clara's eyes filled, but no tears fell. A woman can survive many things: hunger, shame, betrayal, men leaving, doors closing. But when you make her child cry over her body, you wake up the part of her that no one gets to bury. Dante looked at Clara then with something deeper than guilt. Respect had been there before. Now there was awe. Valeria turned to Dante. "Are you going to let an employee speak to me like this?" Dante looked at her as if she had become something very small. "You are not my fiancé anymore. Dante, you are not to say my name." The words were quiet, final, and colder than shouting. Marcus stepped forward with a folder. "Your accounts connected to the wedding trust have been frozen. The medical board has Hollow's confession. Marta Vale has given a statement. Enzo is in custody. Your family has already received copies." Valeria's face drained. "You sent this to my family?" "You wanted my empire," Dante said. "Now you can watch every door close from the outside." Valeria looked at Clara one last time. "This is not over." Clara held her gaze. "For women like you, nothing is ever over because you never learn to live without taking. But for my daughter, it ends here." Valeria was removed without screaming. That somehow made it worse. The silence she left behind felt like a room, after a storm has passed and people are still checking whether the roof remains. Clara stood too quickly and swayed. Dante reached for her, then stopped himself before touching her. She noticed. That restraint mattered. "I can walk," she said. "I know," he replied. "I was waiting in case you chose not to." Her eyes softened despite herself. The legal aftermath moved slowly, which was why it felt real. Valeria's exposure did not fix everything in one day. Dr. Hallow fought the confession, then surrendered. When Marta's statement and pharmacy logs surfaced, Enzo tried to disappear, but Marcus found him before the police did. Valeria's family denied involvement, then cut her off publicly to protect their own name. Every headline called it a medical scandal, a trust conspiracy, a tragedy around Isabella Moretti's death. None of the headlines understood the smaller truth. A secretary's daughter had answered a phone because her mother could not stand. Clara stayed at Isabella's house while she healed. She tried twice to leave. The first time, she said her apartment needed cleaning. Dante had it repaired, repainted, and secured without entering her private drawers or touching Lily's drawings. The second time, she said people would talk. Dante answered, "People already talked when you were innocent. Let them be wrong. Again." Clara did not know how to accept help without fearing the price. That was one of the things life had taught her too well. One afternoon, she found Dante in Isabella's garden, standing near the roses with his hands in his pockets. "You do not have to save me," she said. He turned. "I know. Do you?" "I am not saving you, Clara." "Then what are you doing?" Dante looked toward the house where Lily was laughing with Dr. Voss over a badly peeled orange. "Trying not to fail the woman who saved me from believing another lie." Clara folded her arms carefully over her ribs. "That sounds like guilt." "Some of it is." She appreciated the honesty even when it hurt. "And the rest?" Dante's eyes met hers. "Respect." Clara looked away first. Respect was harder to accept than pity. Pity kept a person below you. Respect asked them to stand beside you. Weeks later, Dante reopened Clara's nursing case. She told him not to. "My past is not your debt," she said. He replied, "No, but the truth is not yours to carry alone anymore." St. Agnes Hospital denied everything at first. Their lawyers sent polite letters. Their administrators claimed records were too old, memories unreliable, accusations unfortunate. Clara almost gave up. Not because she was weak, but because tired women sometimes learn to call surrender peace. Then Mrs. Bell came forward. She was older now, thin and bent, with a cane and a blue scarf around her shoulders. Clara had not seen her in years. The moment the old woman entered the hearing room, Clara covered her mouth. Mrs. Bell walked slowly to the table and took Clara's hands. You stayed, she said. Everyone else looked through me, but you stayed. Clara broke then, not loudly, just enough that Lily, sitting beside Mrs. Alvarez in the back row, began to cry too. Mrs. Bell testified that Clara had saved her life. A retired orderly remembered the doctor's anger. A clerk admitted medication logs had been replaced after the VIP incident. One by one, the wall built around Clara's shame began to crack. When the board cleared her name, the room did not erupt. Real justice rarely sounds like thunder. Sometimes it is only a woman sitting very still while the lie she carried for years is finally lifted from her shoulders. Clara read the letter 3 times. Her license could be restored. Her record would be corrected. The words blurred. Lily climbed into her lap, even though she was almost too big for it. Good crying? She asked. Clara laughed through tears and held her close. Yes, baby. Good crying. Dante stood at the back of the room. He did not move forward. He did not turn the moment into his own victory. Clara saw that too. Later that week, Dante took Clara and Lily to Isabella's grave. The cemetery was warm under the June sun. White roses lay against the stone. Dante stood before his mother's name for a long time, Isabella's letter in his hand. Clara held Lily's fingers and waited. Finally, Dante knelt and placed the letter in a sealed case at the base of the grave. I heard you too late, Mama, he said. His voice almost broke, but did not. But I heard you. Lily stepped forward with a small daisy she had picked from the edge of the path. Mommy says grandmas still protect people. Dante looked at her. Your mommy says many true things. Lily nodded seriously. She used to be a nurse. Clara smiled with tears in her eyes. I suppose I still am. Dante stood and looked at her, then stopped hiding behind my desk. Clara stared at him. What? Isabella's foundation owns a clinic building on the south side. My mother wanted it opened before she died, for poor mothers, elderly patients, children who get treated last because their parents cannot pay first. Clara's breath caught. Dante continued carefully, as if placing something fragile between them. Run it. Dante. Not for me, not under my name. Under yours if you want. Clara looked at Isabella's grave, then at Lily, then back at him. Rich men often build clinics so the city forgets what else they have done. Then make sure this one does not belong to a rich man. If I run it, no patient is turned away for being poor. Agreed. No doctor buries a mistake because a donor matters more than a patient. Agreed. No woman is made to feel small because she walks in tired, unpaid, or alone. Dante's eyes softened. Agreed. Clara swallowed hard. And you do not use it to buy forgiveness from me. He was quiet for a long moment. Forgiveness cannot be bought. No. Then I will wait and earn whatever you decide to give. That answer stayed with her longer than any promise. Months later, Isabella House opened with a small sign. Beside the door, directed by Clara Hayes, RN. The first morning, Clara stood outside in a clean white coat, unable to move. Lily was beside her, practically bouncing with pride. Mommy, your name is on the wall. Clara looked at the letters until they blurred. For years, her name had lived in whispers. Now it stood in sunlight. Patients came slowly at first. Elderly, women with blood pressure pills in plastic bags, single mothers with babies on their hips, children with coughs, men with tired backs, women who apologized for needing help before anyone had even asked what was wrong. Clara heard every apology and answered the same way. You are here now. That is enough. Dante visited after hours. At first, he pretended to check accounts, repairs, deliveries, security. Lily never believed him. One evening, she found him standing awkwardly near the reception desk holding a folder upside down. You came to see Mommy, she said. Dante looked down at the folder, turned it the right way, and said, I came to inspect paperwork. Lily giggled. Mommy says you are bad at lying when you are trying to be nice. From inside her office, Clara laughed. A real laugh. Dante looked toward the sound like a man hearing music in a language he did not know but wanted to learn. That night, after Lily fell asleep on the small couch in Clara's office, Dante stood by the window while Clara finished patient notes. The clinic was quiet, warm, safe. On the wall hung Lily's newest drawing, Clara in a nurse coat, Lily holding a rabbit, Dante in a black suit standing beside them, and above them a woman with angel wings labeled Grandma Isabella. Clara set down her pen. You do not have to invent reasons to come here. Dante turned. I know. Do you? I am learning. She looked at him then. The man before her was still dangerous, still powerful, still carrying shadows. She could not heal for him. But he no longer looked at her like an employee he had rescued. He looked at her like a woman whose strength had changed the shape of his life. I called that night to fire you, he said. Clara's expression softened. I remember. Your daughter answered. 4 words. That was all it took to stop me from destroying the only honest woman in my life. Clara stood slowly. Those 4 words saved me too. Dante took 1 step closer, then stopped. Always stopping now. Always giving her the choice. I do not know how to be gentle, he admitted. Clara looked at his hand, then his face, then learned slowly. And if I fail? Then apologize. Grown people should say sorry too. For the first time, Dante's mouth almost smiled. Lily taught me that. Clara placed her hand in his, not because she was rescued, not because she was grateful, but because for the first time in years, standing beside someone did not feel like surrender. Outside, the city continued with all its noise, lies, hunger, and hope. Inside Isabella House, beneath a child's drawing and the soft glow of evening, lights, the woman once called a failed nurse, stood with the man who had almost believed the worst of her. And from that day on, the 4 words that broke the Mafia Boss became the 4 words that opened his heart before it was too late.